What is up, y'all? Welcome back to another video. In this video, we are going to be looking at another player the Detroit Lions signed this offseason, and today we are looking at Reggie Ragland. Let's get it started. So Reggie Ragland is a linebacker that was drafted back in 2016 in the second round, and somehow he's now a Detroit Lion just 4 years later. That's signed to a 1-year, $1 million deal. I have no idea how the Lions got him this cheap. Or I didn't have an idea how the Lions got him this cheap. So I had to go do some research and figure out why this dude's even available, why he's not with this team that he started with, what the heck happened, why is he now a Detroit Lion for this cheap after being so highly touted in the 2016 draft. I mean, think about it, this was a second round pick. This guy was getting comparisons to some of the best linebackers in that draft. And some even thought this guy could go first round. But there were obviously some cons that kept him away from that. But it's crazy. It's crazy that Detroit Lions now landed this guy, so some people think this could be a steal. And I'm here to tell you today what I think he will do for the Detroit Lions. Now, this isn't necessarily a film breakdown like we've done, but I will show some clips on the screen of what I've seen from Reggie Ragland. Probably not anything college because college is on their stuff with copyright, but that angle 22 footage, man, they don't care. They don't care, so I love it, man. That's what we've been using recently, and that's what we're going to continue to use until I can't. So we're going to continue to do that. But let's talk about Reggie Ragland. So I'm sure a lot of you guys are wondering, okay, why is this guy here? Because a lot of people think, oh, he was just a bust, right? He just played really bad. He's a bust. That's why he's here. However, it's actually a different story. See, Reggie Ragland lost a lot of his playing time in 2019. 2018, he played 49% of the snaps for Kansas City. He was either a 1-down or 2-down linebacker, and I'll tell you why in a second. But he lost pretty much all of that playing time in 2019. He was like a 20% snap player. That's a huge drop-off in one season. And I never really understood that. I'm like, well, his 2018 wasn't that bad, so why did he lose so much time? Well, they brought in a new defensive coordinator in 2019, and that new defensive coordinator switched their defense from a 3-4 to a 4-3. And this was probably the biggest loser of that change was Reggie Ragland. So they brought in a couple of linebackers, but it was really a different scheme that utilized different talents at the linebacker position that necessarily Reggie Ragland wasn't built for. Reggie Ragland is coming out of college built for a 3-4 defense, and they changed to a 4-3 in 2019. Which is why his playing time went way down, and which is why they decided to move him, because they had two big contracts with guys like Dee Ford, the guys in Justin Houston. So because of that, they decided, okay, let's just cut him. And they decided to move on from Reggie Ragland. He wasn't going to get more playing time than Anthony Hitchens in the middle in the 4-3 defense. There were just really no spot for him. There was really no spot for him unless he was just simply a backup. But he didn't have necessarily the right tools to be great in the 4-3. He's more of a 3-4 linebacker. So they decided to move him, and they decided to let him go. Now, actually, let's go back a little bit before that as well. This guy wasn't drafted by the Kansas City Chiefs. So even though he played all this time with the Kansas City Chiefs, he was actually drafted by the Buffalo Bills. He was out for the full year with a knee injury. Then the Bills decided, hey, we're going to trade him. And they traded him to the Chiefs. Then, second year with the Chiefs, they changed their defense. So that's so dang unfortunate. And this is why I think he's going to have a real opportunity or a real shot. Hopefully, Matt Patricia and Bob Quinn can keep their jobs so he does have a real shot. But he's only on a 1-year deal. But this is some unfortunate luck, man, to have an injury, get traded, and then just a year later, your defense changes and you're not really involved anymore. To me, that is wild, and that's just an unfortunate circumstance that Reggie Ragland was put in. And now he's with the Detroit Lions. He could potentially end up being great for us because we were able to get him for a very cheap deal. And really, I don't think he's been able to, show what he's all about. I don't think he has. So let's talk about Reggie Ragland a little bit. Going back to his college days at Alabama, like I said, this is one of the top linebackers, and he was a pretty big guy. He's a big guy. He's like 6'2", 250. This is a run-stuffing linebacker, kind of like Jared Davis. He's a run-stuffing linebacker, and that's what he does really, really well. He's all about the inside run-stuffing. Now, he's pretty good against the zone as well, like zone runs. I love the ability to jump gaps, and his gap awareness is great, which we'll talk about a little bit. But coming out of college, those were basically his pros, right? He was a signal caller for Alabama at that middle linebacker position or the interior linebacker position. But he had tons of cons. And even though he was so great at his job, it made him such a high prospect. But there was so many big cons that made it so he couldn't be a first-round pick. Like not being good in coverage. I mean, that was the biggest thing. Coverage linebackers are huge today. He couldn't do that. He can't play man. Maybe okay in zone. He's not really good at it, though. And he probably would struggle with the Detroit Lions defense when it comes to covering. And if you see with the Lions linebackers, a lot of times, what we'll do is, if we don't blitz, we'll have just the line go, okay? And then everybody else is playing man-to-man, and the linebackers kind of just sit there in the middle. That's kind of what his role was. That's kind of what Reggie Ragland's role was with the Kansas City Chiefs as well. Just kind of sit in the middle and watch the quarterback, almost like a spy, or if anybody, I guess, cuts your face. But that may change up a little bit now that we get Corey Undlin. Maybe he'll mix it up a little bit. And there are some major cons because he's not super fast. He's not crazy athletic. His lateral speed is not necessarily there, and he doesn't help against cover, and he doesn't help in coverage. Now, I don't want to give away everything until we get to the pros, but his numbers were really good. He was just really, really good at what he did. I mean, you wanted an inside run stuffer, a guy that can help. If your team doesn't stop the run well, you go after Reggie Ragland because he has that size to just take on offensive linemen, take on fullbacks, take on big running backs. And that's what he is. And that's who the Detroit Lions brought in. This guy is known as General Ragland. I don't know if anybody calls him General Ragland, but hey, if they do, I mean, that's kind of fire. So hopefully we start calling him that. Hopefully that catches on. I don't know if it will. But this is a player who doesn't drop back in coverage very often. I think last season he dropped in coverage like 23 times. It really hasn't been a lot. But I mean, last season he didn't play as many snaps. 2018 was the most snaps we saw from this player, which is where he played 500 plus snaps. He had 49% of the snaps. He had 86 total tackles, 2 tackles for loss, 1 quarterback hit, 1 interception. He doesn't blitz a ton either. That's something that's really interesting. Yes, he's a run stuffer. He's a run popper. He just didn't blitz a lot. Maybe Matt Patricia utilized him to blitz more. He may. I mean, that's what we did with Jarrad Davis. This dude just looks a lot bulkier to me. He looks more bulky to me, and he doesn't look like necessarily as quick as Jarrad Davis. Like, Jarrad Davis to me flies around, and I think this could potentially be an opportunity for Jarrad Davis to try out some different things, try out some new roles if Reggie Ragland does get a pretty solid rotational spot, because he's not going to start. I mean, with our linebacker group, he's probably not going to start with Jamie Collins, with Jelani Tavai, with Jarrad Davis. I mean, you still do have Christian Jones. You brought in now Reggie Ragland. You have Julian Okwara, Austin Bryant. I mean, he may start, he may not. We'll just have to wait and see. But yeah, at least he'll probably have a rotational spot in the inside. I don't see him bumping to the outside whatsoever. I just don't think he's that good at it. And I think that's one big reason that he didn't fit in the 4-3s, because he wasn't great at setting the edge. And he's not fast enough to be a speed rusher on the outside. So it's like, yeah, you got to be an interior 3-4 linebacker. That's what you're good at. That's what you do well. And now he's with the Detroit Lions, and that's what he's going to try to do. But I definitely could see Jarrad Davis's role potentially changing a little bit. Maybe he blitzed him a lot more. If you guys remember back in 2018, I think it was. I mean, this dude was blitzing a ton, right? He had a lot of sacks. So maybe they try to get him back to that. All right, y'all, I had to throw on my glasses real quick. See, I've been looking at a lot of screens today. My eyes are getting tired. So because of that, I decided to throw on my glasses. I'm not trying to be stylish or anything, or you know what I'm saying? But I do need to put them on because they feel a lot better. But let's continue to talk about Reggie Ragland. So again, Reggie Ragland, that's what he is, right? That's what he is for the Detroit Lions, and I think that's what he'll be. And it's going to potentially move some players around. I can definitely see Jamie Collins be more of a edge defender, most likely, or on early downs, and then on later downs when Reggie Ragland comes off the field, because he does, he can play in that interior spot, which is really interesting. So he goes to the NFL. You know, he has a weird situation where he's at, and I decided to go back and watch some Chiefs games, and this is what I really took away from him. Here's my main takeaways. Very explosive player against the run, right? This is a very explosive player who will jump through gaps. He'll take on a fullback. This guy is physical as heck, man. This is a very, very physical run stuffer, and that's what he does. I mean, that is literally his job, right? You need to help that run defense, and you want to have a linebacker that stuffs the run, which may be what the Lions want. Maybe they don't think Jarrad Davis gives them enough of that. Maybe they don't think Jelani gives them enough of that, so they bring in Reggie Ragland, who's just literally, that's what he does. That's what he did in college. He's a big guy. He's a big hitter. That's who he is. And that's what the Detroit Lions are getting here. And that's why, you know, we could see Jarrad Davis not his fifth-year option not picked up. Maybe if Reggie Ragland plays better than Davis, maybe Reggie Ragland is the future and we extend him. They're going to compete. You know, they're really going to compete, because if Davis doesn't play a little bit of a different role, they're going to compete, because there's only so many roles you can play. Jelani Tavai is not going anywhere. You know, I don't think Jelani Tavai goes anywhere. Jamie Collins, he's not going anywhere. So it's going to add a lot of competition for Jarrad Davis. Like I said, takes fullbacks head on. I mean, this is one clip that you'll see where he literally just runs at the fullback, and it's not the only time. I mean, I saw it multiple times. I just didn't, save every clip. But multiple times, man, whether it's goal line, whatever it may be, this guy takes on the fullback first, and he's able to kind of maneuver himself off the fullback and get the runner. And I think the reason he does that is because unless it's like some kind of weird misdirection where the fullback goes one way and the running back goes the other, is that if you follow the fullback through the hole, that's usually where the ball carrier is coming. So he takes the fullback head on, and what that allows the other linebacker to do usually is get a clean shot on the running back. Right, because he's able to take on that big fullback. He's not going to get ran over by a fullback. He takes that hit on and it allows another linebacker to come in and make the tackle, or sometimes allows him to move away the fullback and then be right there for the tackle, kind of clogs up the lanes. That's what he is, man. He's a lane clogger. This is like a defensive tackle at the linebacker position. I love his ball carrier awareness. I don't see him lose the football very often, man. I mean, even if it's a misdirection, he's usually really good on where the football is. I didn't see many times where he lost the football. I really didn't. Now, he doesn't have that crazy, speed, that lateral quickness, where necessarily if the play is goes this way and he's already this way, and then the wide receiver or something does some kind of end around, he usually ain't catching that wide receiver. I'm just going to say it, right? This guy doesn't have that crazy speed, but with his ball carrier awareness, man, he usually knows where the football is, which is at least a good thing. So he's able to, predict the right gaps, jump the right gaps, and he's a 3-4 run defender, all right? He's in the perfect scheme now, right? He was in the perfect scheme. He was in a good scheme for him with Kansas City, and Kansas City, decided to change it up, right? And I don't blame them. Their defense wasn't that good, but they got a new defense coordinator, and once that happens, everything changes. Just like when we got Matt Patricia, everything changes because now you're playing a completely different defense, and Reggie Ragland now is kind of at home with this 3-4, so I'm sure he's excited to be here. Now, definitely some cons. He's really slow. I mean, not really slow, but I would say he's too slow for a linebacker to cover a tight end, to cover a running back. He's going to be mismatched, all right? He has some size. He just ain't fast enough. He's really not. You can't man this guy against those players, so that's one big con I see. And really, to add to that, he comes out the field on third downs. I really rarely saw him on third downs on the field, unless they were really, really short, like a third and one where you're expecting a run. And even second and longs, he would come out the field. If they were expecting pass, he's not on the field usually. Sometimes, you get a play action, not really expecting it. Yeah, he's stuck on the field, and he's kind of just stands there, to be honest with you. But he's usually taken off the field if they believe a pass is coming, at the end of a game. He'll be taken off the field because he's not giving you anything in the pass game. He literally gives you nothing. I don't know what he even gives you. He's all about the run. Even on play actions, he'll just run to where the running back is and he'll stop, and then he's kind of out of the play. That's all he does. That's literally all he does. So I definitely see some big cons here. He's an early down player, and I think some teams he's less effective than others. If you're playing against a run-heavy team, this dude is making his money. That's where you get big tackle numbers. If you're playing against a team that's necessarily a passing team, maybe like the Chiefs, maybe he's not as effective because they're just throwing it so much. It's can't really put you out there because they're going to throw it so much, so I can't really use you. But again, maybe that allows the Detroit Lions to, utilize him some games don't. I like the ability here. I like the versatility to use him sometimes and not use him because he was so cheap and the potential this player has. I just kind of hate the fact that, he's not a pass coverage guy. We don't have a lot of pass coverage linebackers. If anybody, it's Jamie Collins, maybe a little bit of Spy, maybe a little Maven. We don't really have a pass coverage linebacker. I mean, Elijah Lee can, but he's mostly the special teams, so maybe he gets more playing time than we expect. But we'll just have to wait and see. I do like his ability, though. I love his potential. I think this guy has a great ceiling, and he really hasn't got to prove it yet. And I think he's going to have a chance to prove himself. He's only 26 years old. He's on a cheap deal. It's basically a prove-it deal. He's going to want to prove it, and just like the Lions, head coaches need to prove it. I think this is a good opportunity for Reggie Ragland to get his career started. So that's Reggie Ragland. Let me hear your thoughts in the comments below. What do you think his role will be with Detroit Lions? Do you think he even makes the team? Thank you for watching.